already. Okay, so I did just regular old quilting batting, one layer on the bottom, and then the 2 layers of fabric, right sides together, and another layer of batting, and then we're just going to sew it from this edge all the way around to this edge. Do a 1/4 of an inch. I don't pin anything, so if you pin stuff, go ahead and take that time. I do a little bit over a 1/4 just to make sure I got all the edges. I didn't catch that, so I need to go back over. And so once that's sewn up with the scissors, I just cut little lines right on those curves to allow some movement. Super little, just a couple. Make sure you don't go too deep or else you will cut your fabric. And then your next step will be your lining. I use it's kind of a silky lining I got from Joann's. It's really lightweight. It was like $7 a yard, and I'm going to sew from this edge where the toe is all the way around, and I'm going to stop about midway above the ankle. I'm going to leave about a 2-inch gap, and then I will sew the last section right here. Step 2. And then this one is our little mushrooms, so that it means we need to do it was blue with this one, right? Okay, so now we have our stocking itself and we have the lining ready to go. I prep my cuff a little bit different, so I cut 7-inch strips, and then I subcut 14.5 inches, so that way it's a seamless piece. It makes it go really easy. So I fold it in half, right sides out on this one. So I'll do a really loose stitch right here just to hold it in place, and then I'll fold it over and I'll sew right here a normal stitch at a 1/4 inch. That is for the top, yes. And then we flip it together, and I like to go from the folded edge to the seamed edge, but sometimes my machine doesn't let me, so we'll see if it does. I'm going to take my stitch down to my normal 2.5, and hopefully we won't catch 100 times. There we go, we got some movement. The reason why I do this is the silky fabric is super slinky, so when I go to attach it, it likes to slide around, and I'm not good at pinching things together. And like I said, I do not like to use pins, so I'm just going to trim these little things before I forget, because I always do. You can pause.
Let go.
Okay, so for the cuff, I turned it right side out, so the seam is hiding in there. And then for the hanging tab, I used the rectangle piece that is on the die itself, and I just cut it in half of the same fabric that the stocking is made out of. And then I just finger press it in half. You could iron it. I don't like to get extra stuff out. I only have my kitchen to work with and my dining room table. And then you fold it in half again. Ironing it would definitely make it stay a little bit better, but I sew it right away, so I don't feel that necessary. And then when you got it pressed down enough, fold her right in half and sew about 1/8 of an inch just to get that tacked down. Line her up nice and easy. If you wanted to make it uniform, you could do another 1/8 of an inch on this side. I don't find it necessary, and I am okay with how this looks here. And then what we do is on the cuff itself, I find it a lot easier to do it now. It doesn't shift as much. I line up my tabs where I want them to go. Some people will put them over on each other exactly like this. I like to let mine separate just a little bit. And so I will actually pre-sew this on right here. And that way when we attach the cuff, it doesn't wiggle around and I don't have to worry about it not being in the right spot. And always double stitch or back stitch to make sure that's attached really nicely. And there we have the cuff ready to go. Point that out. Okay. So far we have our actual stocking itself. We have the lining, and the lining has a gap from right here to right here, so we can turn it right side out when it's time. And then we have our cuff with our tab pre-sewn. And so from here, we're going to turn our stocking right side out. And then make sure just to press along these edges to get them to stick out. You could use a fid or a different tool to do it, but my hand works just fine. And then just press those out nicely and make sure you get it around that heel because it does have that little bit of curve that likes to stick in there. And we have what looks like a stocking. Okay, so now from here, what we're going to do is we're going to take our cuff, we're going to slide it over, and we're going to line up seam to seam right back here. And then we're going to, this is the one time I might pin, but I still don't want to, so I'm not going to. And now we're just going to sew 1/4 inch right on the inside here to get everything to lay nice and neat. And that'll be kind of what it looks like for this next step. Let's see here. Put that up there. Pinning does help, just kind of make sure everything does stay in place, but I know my seam's right there, so we're doing okay on the stretch. A lot of people will tell you to open up your seams. It always makes it go a little bit smoother, but I don't have an issue with my machine. I'm using a Baby Lock Accord. I've had it for a couple years and I've never had too many issues going over bigger humps. And so we're almost halfway there. I will push this one over on this one because I have a couple more extra seams there. One more little rotate. Get a nice stretch there and back stitch there. And we are officially attached. And then our fun next step, this one's pretty easy. We just need to really make sure our toes are pointed in the right direction. Can you scoot that way a little bit? Okay. we are going to stuff our stocking inside of the lining. The lining is where you can see the seams. It's not turned right side normal yet. We're just going to stuff this whole thing in there. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be in. There we go. This lining is a lot thinner than just a regular fabric. I used regular fabric and it worked just fine, but I wanted something a little bit more soft. And now what we'll do is just make sure that your tab is facing down so you don't accidentally sew it in there. Make sure your seams are lined up again, and then we're just going to do another 1/4 inch seam all the way around. I do regular stitches on these. You could loosen that stitch up because the one where you attach the cuff to the stocking is just kind of a placeholder, but I want it to be extra secure, so I just use a regular stitch. And I'm just going a little bit over a 1/4 inch here. Keep rotating and line that little fella up. Make sure my edges are lined up. We're almost to the end already. Back over the hump. Just be a little careful if you break needles a lot. And then we are at the end, so I just backstitch a little bit and we are done with that section. So from here, we are going to take this little hole. I made it a little smaller than I should have, but we just pull out the stocking itself. If I can get a hold of it, there it is. And we are going to get it all the way out. So I only did about 1.5 inches on my hole there. I should have done a little bit closer to 2, just so it wasn't pulling as much, especially with how thick the cuff fabric is, but it's all right. We'll get there. There it is. Ta-da! And then from here, we are going to turn the stocking lining right side out as well. So just keep pulling. And then the little hole that we created right here that we didn't sew up, we are going to just tack that closed. I folded in 1/4 inch-ish. If it will go, it's a little slinky, so it's a little hard to work with. There we go. Oh my Gamlanta. There we go. Come on, roll it and pinch it. Little clippies would work really, really well right here, but I forgot those at the store today. So I'm just going to sew that up right there to close off that seam. I do just at 1/8 inch-ish, and hopefully I catch everything, because sometimes I don't. And my seam starts right there, so that's where we'll end. And it looks like I caught everything. It's at least closed, okay? And then you just shove your inside right inside the stocking. Straighten out your edge. And voila! We have there are no raw edges on the inside of that stocking. If you can see there is just a couple threads I need to close up, but we have our stocking in like 15 minutes.